Corruption is a long-term obstacle faced by the Philippines and the Filipino themselves. Corruption can come in different forms such as bribery, grand corruption, patronage, and state capture. The Philippines has a long history when it comes to corruption due to the embezzlement of funds, graft, and abuse of power by the state officials. Corruption in the Philippines continued to crush the lives of the younger generation, their dreams and their aspiration, and preventing them from achieving that quality life that they deserve. Every Filipino has the right to live a comfortable and quality life free from other problems or free from corruption. To discuss more about corruption in the Philippines, here's the Corruption Perception Index of the Philippines throughout the years, or the CPI. On a scale of 0 to 100, 0 is highly corrupted, 100 is uncorrupted. So in 2012, we have 34%, 2013, 36%, 2014, 38%, 2015, 35%, 2016, 35%, 2017, 34%, 2018, 36%, 2019, 34%, and 2020, 34%. And it basically depends on the current administration and how they run the economy. Now, we're going to discuss the corruption in the different sectors of the Philippines, starting the Philippine corruption in the judicial system. We can all agree that the justice system here in the Philippines is very unfair and selective. So, for example, low salary for judicial officers are underfunded by the state that resulted them to only rely on the sponsors, because it is very visible when we see, and when what we see on television is that only the rich people can get or can receive the justice, while the poor people who are in the right place are being ignored. So that is already a great example of how corrupt the judicial system here in the Philippines. And instead of helping the poor, they are degrading and insulting the poor even more so that it cannot talk, or they will be silent. Next sector to discuss is corruption in public services, meaning businesses are being bribed by the government for them to finish the construction or the establishment of the brand. Businesses have to take side to the stand of the current administration to receive approval of the operation and registration, meaning the businesses are being forced to pay a certain amount of money for them to fully establish their brand or to fully operate on land, and they have to take side on the stand of the government. Instead of supporting these businesses, they are already being confronted by the government with problems, bombarded with different issues, and if they cannot fully And if they cannot fully keep up with the demands of the government, then it is expected that the brand will not flourish, and the brand will even receive different threats coming from the government. So it is really a hard situation for them to thrive in the market. Next sector to discuss is land and tax corruption. Businesses with closer connections with the government don't have to pay their tax, while other business brands are doing it responsibly. And in order to get the permit to construct a building on a specific land, businesses still have to pay for it. Meaning, whenever you have connections on the inside of the government, it's easier for you to process things, to get things done, and it's really unfair because not everyone have connections. And instead of giving everyone equal opportunity and access, it is now being selected based on your connection. And how can we solve the different problems of the people if we continue to practice that? And it is not a great emulation to the younger generation. The last sector is Philippine corruption in natural resources. Illegal mining zones that are permitted by the government to operate for their own personal agenda. Illegal deforestation in order for the government to construct building and do closeted operation. Even though the Philippines is rich in natural resources and agriculture, we still suffer corruption in terms of this because government continues to dominate the native lands, and instead of equally sharing the natural resources such as minerals, coal, land, farm, fishing communities, they're taking all up on their own, and people continues to suffer, and instead of using it for the benefit of all, they're just using it for themselves. And this is really unfair because poor people don't have the power to take it back what was stolen from them. Now let's talk about the impacts of corruption to the Filipinos. First, we have poverty and inequality. Poverty and inequality is found in every corner of the Philippines. We can still see a lot of marginalized people living in the streets. This is because of the incompetent and unprofessional actions of the state officials. Instead of equally distributing the foods and supplies to these people, they're just consuming it on their own. And even though there are still many people who can afford to buy on their own, there are still also many marginalized people that needs help. They cannot even eat 3 times a day. They cannot even access to the basic communities and essentials they want for everyday living. And it's just very unfair because these people with power, they're not helping these people. Instead, they're ignoring these people. The next two impacts are biased and selective justice system and human rights violation. We all know how selective justice system works in the Philippines. If you are rich, then you can receive justice fair and square. But if you are poor, even though you're always on the right place, you are being ignored. This is because the government or the court always takes side on the people with power. And instead of helping the poor, they're just ignoring it. And in terms of human rights violation, Gen Zs or younger generations are being silenced. They are being ragtagged because these people, these younger generations know how to speak what is the truth and know how to speak what is the right thing to do. So the government is afraid of them. That's why they are being ragtagged and they are being sent death threats. The next impact is armed conflict and rally. Filipinos do rally for a reason. Yes, they do rally for a reason. And this is because government make decisions that is only exclusive for them, instead of making decisions that the whole Philippines should benefit. Seeing that there is still many people who cannot eat 3 times a day, the government should come up with solutions that is for the whole Philippines. And this is the reason why people rally, because they're fighting for their rights. They're fighting for the oppressed and marginalized, and they're requiring and demanding solutions and services from the governments that is for the whole Filipinos, not only for them, because the government is for the people, by the people. The last two impacts is the militaristic approach of the people and climate change and loss of biodiversity. Militaristic approach of the people meaning they are using their power to control and manipulate the people in an abusive way and harmful way. They are killing the Filipinos, they are hurting the younger generations, and they are silencing the people. And in terms of loss of biodiversity, it is true because Philippines is known for its natural resources. But now we are struggling and we are facing with different scenarios and different phenomena such as water pollution, air pollution, because the government didn't do anything to alleviate the situation. And it gets even worse because the people are also undisciplined. They are not taking their responsibility to throw their garbages properly. How can we relate corruption to the Catholic social teaching of option for the poor and vulnerable? This Catholic social teaching implies that each and every one of us should defend the poor and contribute something for the society for the common good. It is our responsibility to help those who are in need, to help those who are in struggle, and to help those who are crying. If Jesus takes side of the oppressed, then so should we. Option for the poor basically means that the people are being deprived and being ignored by those people who are in power, and that can wound the whole community. Because even though you're already enjoying your wealth, you're not doing your responsibility as a citizen because you're not helping the poor and the oppressed. How corruption violates the CST option for the poor and vulnerable. The government continues to deprive and neglect the right of the people to live a comfortable life, with equal resources and opportunities to work, with equal access to the justice system, and with equal access to education and anything that the people need, denying their responsibility to contribute to the community and disrespecting the poor. Instead of taking side of the oppressed, they are opposing the oppressed. No justice is given to the poor people, and the rich continues to abuse their power to drag down the people into hunger, inequality, and injustices. And this is not a fair situation for all of us. Those who are in power should know how to use their power for good and for the people to alleviate their situation they faces every day. How can we relate corruption to the Catholic social teaching of dignity of works and the right of the workers? This Catholic social teaching said that it's important to prioritize the goal access for steady employment of everyone. Everyone needs work, everyone needs money, and everyone needs a source of income to sustain their needs. Helping the poor financially by providing opportunities to work to sustain their needs, because there are many families that have many children to feed, requires decision, program, mechanism, and processes to geared for a better distribution of income. And this is something that the government should learn, because distribution of income is an important and vital factor for the economy to develop and for the people to have something as a source of income for their family. How corruption violates the CST of dignity of works and the right of the workers. Instead of business making many projects to hire a group of people, the government barricades if the business is not on the same side as them. So people would have to wait for new businesses to hire a new set of people. The government doesn't have any long-term projects and lack opportunities for the people to work. High application standard, and only those who are connected with someone in the government can easily get hired. And instead of helping the people who are really in need of a job, they're just ignoring it. And very low pay or even a minimum wage, or they're not paying the workers at all, which made the situation even worse. The next main topic is Philippine poverty. Philippines has been fighting poverty for over a decade now, and obviously has high poverty rate, with more than 60% of the Filipinos are in the population living on the poverty scale. Even though Philippines is rich in agriculture and natural resources, there is still many people suffering from getting basic essentials and commodities that they need on their everyday living. There are many families in the Philippines that cannot afford to buy something for the family, send their sons or daughters to a private institution, and as simple as happiness for the child. We all know that the child has the right to be happy, and child are being neglected from the basic opportunities that they should have while growing. To know more about the poverty in the Philippines, let us talk about poverty in the different sectors of the Philippines. First, we have the farmers with 31% poverty incidence. Farmers continue to struggle in the debt and low income works as the government puts so much pressure on their nature of work and no government assistance. Next, we have the fishing community with 26.2% poverty incidence, meaning fishing community also continues to struggle in accessing basic services, healthcare services, and education attainment. Lastly, we have the rural areas with 24.5% poverty incidence because they lack healthcare services, government aids, and low agricultural advertisement to the international scale. And this is something that Philippines should do in order to engage within the economy and help these communities. The next three sectors are the children, self-employed workers, and the women. Child poverty continues to increase with 23.9 poverty incidence because children don't have access to education. They don't have access to the basic commodities and essential they need. The children has the right to be happy and the children has the right to live a quality life. Next, we have self-employed workers with 18 poverty incidents, lacking opportunities and livelihood for the skillful Filipinos and unpaid and even receive minimum wage. For the women, women had long gone being neglected by their rights and opportunities, and they are being deemed as the weakest among the social hierarchy, and women should have equal access and opportunity, the same thing as men. To know more about poverty, let us discuss the causes of poverty in the Philippines. First, we have low quality of jobs generated coming from the government that left most of the Filipinos unemployed, while others are doing the left side, meaning they are selling drugs to earn money to sustain their needs. Weakness in employment generation, meaning the government requires high standard qualifications from the Filipinos to get accepted on the job and requires government connection for you to be accepted on the job instead of basing only on the main factors such as skills and experiences. The next cause is high population growth, meaning it led to increasing number of children to feed among family, among household, and higher demands from the people, an equal distribution of funds, and lower income. There are many families in the Philippines that have 5 to 6 children to feed, and earning a minimum wage won't help that. So poor families having 5 to 6 children and the parents only earn a minimum wage every day, making it difficult for them to feed the whole family on a daily basis. And this is very common in the Philippines because we can even find it in every corner of the region. And this problem needs immediate solution because families are suffering. And the last cause is weak government response and assistance. Weak government response and assistance means the community continue to suffer from poverty, hunger, unemployment, and neglect. Not enough projects and livelihood are made or catered to the people, especially families with 6 to 7 children to feed. They need long-term jobs, and contractualization will not help that. It will just make the situation even worse. What these people need are immediate and long-term jobs so that they can have a source of income to sustain the needs of their family throughout the day.
Catholic social teaching as the answer. Following the works and actions of Jesus, we have to put the needs of the poor and the vulnerable first. To enable the poor to actively participate in the community, meaning they have to be given the same treatment and opportunities as the others and listening to what they have to say for the betterment of everybody. Option for the poor and vulnerable. Government should learn how to equally distribute the funds, prioritizing the poor in terms of basic services and healthcare. So, relocation sites and medical healthcare should be free for the poor. Government and the people are always in heat argument because the officials are using their power to neglect the opportunities from the poor and paying the workers with unreasonable wage. Catholic social teaching as the answer. Dignity of work and right of workers. The CST implies that work is not just about living but a participation in God's creation. The basic rights of the workers must be respected, paying fair wages and endless opportunities for others. A man must work for his family, for others, for the society, for the country, and whatever group he belongs to and must not be denied. Dignity of work and rights of workers. How poverty violates the CST. There's a continuous neglect of opportunities for the poor to work to sustain family needs and achieve personal fulfillment. Also, discrimination in the workplace based on gender where women are perceived weak. Workers are not greatly valued by the government and companies as the source of all economic and social life. Philippines unemployment. Unemployment and underemployment are the Philippines' most pressing problems and key indicator of a weak economy activity. On the current stance of the Philippines, unemployment worsens with over 4.2 million jobless in February by PSA. Labor market are getting incompetent because of the uneven market power between two companies that resulted from inefficient workers, mobility, and discrimination in the workplace. So here is the map of the Philippines showing unemployment by region. It is based on the Philippine Statistics Authority. As you can see, NCR has the highest percentage of unemployment, which is 12.4%. Causes of unemployment. Overpopulation in the Philippines had led to severe unemployment to half of the population. Due to the increasing population, companies are unable to accept the volume of applicants, leaving most of them unemployed. Another cause of unemployment is structural unemployment, such oversupply of labor force and inability to take available jobs. It's a common scenario in the Philippines that companies hire a group of applicants only for a specific position and leaving a huge number of applicants unqualified for. Catholic social teaching as the answer. Option for the poor and vulnerable. This CST basically implies to help those people who are in need for work. The ability to share the goods of others and giving everyone assistance or aid to develop themselves, giving everyone an opportunity to work, and convincing those who are in power to open more doors and services for unemployed individuals. Option for the poor and vulnerable. Companies are practicing structural unemployment, leaving skillful and talented applicants just because they are not needing someone in a specific position. So, not everyone are given equal opportunities. Dignity of work and rights of the workers. All people have the right to work and experience quality of life. Everyone has a chance to develop their personalities and exercise their professions to have a better life with their families. How does unemployment violate the CST? The government are ignoring the cry for help of the people who needs work and livelihood to earn money for their families. Companies are getting too meticulous in choosing the applicants to work and leaving many people left with no choice but to wait for another hiring.
Pila ako sa ano eh. 10. Sige, paitan ako sa.
Good morning, sir. What did you call me for?
Marvin, I want you to know that you're fired.
Sir, Sir?
I am sorry. You're
Wh-
fired.
Why, sir? What did I do wrong?
Well, I have observed your performance on the past few weeks and it's terrible. You can't do a single thing. Your work is a mess and you're out of focus.
But,
I sorry,
sir,
Harbin.
I have family to raise, sir. I have two kids going through online school, and I have family. I have my family to feed. I don't have any more money, sir. I
You
don't
can
know,
look for another job, Harbin. I'm sorry, but you're fired.
sir.
We can't do anything about that.
Sir, please.
Harvin, I'm sorry, you can't do anything about that. If you've been diligent in your work, then maybe
Sir.
you're not in this situation right now. So yeah, you're fired.
Sir.
Hey guys, it's a good day of work. Oh no, I can't go out with you guys today. See you again tomorrow? Yeah. Hey Mark, can I see you in my office for just a second? Oh, sure, sir. Uh, what seems to be the matter, sir? I'm sorry that I have to be the one to tell you this. It truly is unfortunate, but we have to let you go, Mark. I brought you here today, in my office, to tell you that you're fired. I'm what? Unfortunately, due to budget cuts, we have to let go of some of our workers. This job's the only thing keeping my family afloat, sir. You gotta understand. I'll work harder. I'll work harder. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, the rest of my days here. Please, sir, I really need this job. It's not about how well you work. It's not about how well you fit in with the rest of the guys here. We just cannot afford to keep any more employees here. With the pandemic, we know you're struggling, but we've also been struggling. Profits are not as big as they used to be. We cannot give the same salary. It's just tough. It's a tough position to be on. To be in. Sir, I need this job. My family needs this job. Really hope you understand. And I wish you the best finding a job out there. Thank you for your service, Mark. You may now leave. Very well, sir. Thank you for the time you've given me.
Hi guys, you know what's on my mind today? Well, it's about the corruption and PhilHealth. If you still remember last year, PhilHealth was in the news because of the corruption that they uncovered, and I believe that's over 15 billion. And it's really insane. It's an insane amount, but if you really think about it, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's corruption is really happening. And in every department, in every branch of the government, there is corruption. And when you talk about 15 billion, it sounds big. And it is really big. But if you think about it, it is just the small part of the bigger pie that is out there in terms of how much the how much money our government officials and politicians are stealing from the people. You know, they steal brazenly. Do you know why? Because they don't even think that they're gonna get caught, and even if they're gonna get caught, they figured that they can get away with it. And that's the biggest problem that we have right now in the Philippines. And because of corruption, we don't have the proper infrastructure, we don't have the proper roads, we don't have the proper water, sewage, everything, you name it. And corruption really affects every aspect of our life: education system, military, healthcare, everything. And I wouldn't be surprised if, the corruption that we have in the Philippines is in the tens to hundred of trillions of pesos. Imagine if we didn't have the corruption in the Philippines. Today we would have a proper healthcare for all the Filipinos. Rich or poor, you would be afforded medical care. And if there was no corruption in the Philippines, we would have proper education, we would have the proper pensions or perhaps retirement plans, and our senior citizens would be taken care of. All of that. And we would have money for our pandemic response. We won't have to borrow money from our neighbors, and that's what we would have if we didn't have corruption. And the reason we have corruption is because we, you, the Filipino, allowed this corruption to happen by the way you vote. By the way you still vote for those corrupt politicians, knowing that they are already corrupt. Because they did something for you and you think you owe them something and then you vote for them. That's our problem, eh? And this is our fault. This is your fault. This is our fault. This is all our fault because we are all complacent by our silence. And this is our fault because we idolize politicians. You see, when you meet a politician and you take a photo with them and you're like, oh wow, I'm meeting with this politician. You idolize them because they're rich and you talk about them like they're successful because they're rich. If there's a politician and they're rich, then there's a problem because with their salary alone and their allowances, they shouldn't be wealthy. They shouldn't be owning 10 houses and different condominiums or houses in luxury subdivisions or even owning luxury cars. If they do, then there's gonna be a problem. You already know that, and yet you still vote for them, and yet you idolize them. You take photos with them. My God, good luck talaga to us. If ever you meet a politician who owns condo units and these luxury condos or even houses in high-end subdivisions, then most likely they're corrupt. Unless you were a businessman first, a successful one that really had a lot of money before they entered the politics or before they joined the politics. Maybe that's even believable. Manny Pacquiao is believable, I believe, because I know he is wealthy beyond politics, but everyone else? Come on. The fact that you even, support these people is the main problem. Stop idolizing politicians because they're rich. Because they're not supposed to be rich. Idolize politicians because or that are government servants who are actually there to serve the people, not because they're rich. The 15 billion they uncovered in PhilHealth is just really peanuts. Imagine how much money is being stolen in customs, how much money is being stolen in the BIR. Imagine how much money is being stolen in the congressional branch or the Senate or the executive branch, the LGU, all of that. Remember Binay when his parking project, they discovered that he was, pricing toilet bowls that were about maybe 5 to 10,000, and he priced it at like, what is it, half a million? Ridiculous. And because he gives you a free cake, you think, oh, such a nice guy. You deserve better. Filipinos deserve better. But unless we hold our government officials accountable, we won't get what we deserve. So, you want a good life? You want your kids or your siblings a free education? You want free healthcare and you want pension when you retire? You want to be taken care of? Then perhaps it is time to vote properly and you hold them accountable and stop idolizing politicians.
Now, we will tackle about Philippine social problems on poverty, corruption, and unemployment. But we will focus on poverty. The country's poverty rate is projected to average between 15.5 and 17.5% in 2021, likely near the 16.6% posted in 2018. Official of the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, said on Thursday, February the 4th, during the launch of the updated Philippine Development Plan, or PDP. Here in the Philippines, poverty is the most common social problem that we are facing right now because lack of basic needs, especially like food, shelter, clothes, and most importantly, education. We'll also tackle about the work and economic growth of the Philippines, mainly because this is the cause why there are lots of poor people living in this country. There are only few job offers given by the government. That's why there are lots of beggars and jobless or tamboys around the corner of the Philippines. If you're given a chance to have a job, they only paid minimum wage that is so low they can't even raise a family. That's why there are lots of poor people living in the slums and under the bridges. It's so heartbreaking to look at them that they are living in that state of area that is not livable for a person. The only solution to beat poverty is to give quality education for all the students and a quality job for all the workers so that they can raise their family in a right way.
Beauty for brokenness, hope for despair. Lord, in your surrender, this is our prayer. Bread for the children, justice, joy, peace. Sunrise to sunset, your kingdom increase. Shelter for fragile lives, cures for their ills. Work for the craftsmen, trade for their skill. Land for the dispossessed, rights for the weak. Voices to plead the cause of those who can't speak. God of the poor, friend of the weak, give us compassion, we pray. To cold hearts, where tears fall like rain. Come change a love from a spark to a flame. Refuge from cruel wars, payments from fear. Cities for sanctuary, freedoms to share. Peace to the killing fields, scorched earth to green. Christ for the bitterness, His cross for the pain. God of the poor, friend of the weak, give us compassion, we pray. Melt our old hearts, let tears fall like rain. Come change your love from a spark to a flame. Rest for the ravage of oceans and streams, plundered and